listening live to Rightside Radio with Phil Williams. It's hard to go wrong when you're on the right side. Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right.
Alabama and Tennessee syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live in the Rightside studios. Man, we got the local, the state, the national, sometimes the international, and oh yeah, like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, welcome to Tuesday, which, you know, it's about food, so it's Taco Tuesday around here. Hit me some Taco Tuesday.
But more importantly, y'all know what today is, right? It's
Yeah. All right. Welcome to Taco Tuesday. Still haven't really firmly said what we're going to do about Thursday, but right now it's Taco Tuesday, and that's JP on the board. Hey, man, how you doing?
I'm doing great, and I'd like to report that I thoroughly enjoyed my Meatloaf Monday yesterday.
I'm proud for you.
Thank you.
Was there anything left?
No. There was not.
What am I saying?
Yeah, come on. What kind of question is that?
That's silly. That's good. I'm glad for you. Hey, we got a great show laid on for you, man. We got a show that is packed with stuff. So coming up at 3 p.m., Emily Jones from Moms for Liberty, also the host of one of our podcasts, The Controversial Mom. Emily Jones is on at 3 o'clock. And then at 3:30, just had a last-minute addition to the lineup. A young female athlete named Macy Petty, who just recently graduated from Lee College in our listening area up there near Chattanooga. But she is now working with Concerned Women for America. And she was there last night for the vote in the Senate about the protecting women's and girls' sports and how that went down. And she's got some thoughts as an athlete who's competed against men trying to pretend they're women. So we'll talk to Macy Petty about that at 3:30. And then at 4 o'clock, my buddy Jeff Poor's calling in because we're doing a segment on the state of the media and where we are right now in the entire landscape change in the media. And Jeff Poor knows as well, if not better than most. So we'll talk about all that with those guys. And then I still got a triple dipper to get through, so hit it, man.
The Triple Dipper. 3 stories you've got to know.
That's right, the Triple Dipper, 3 stories, 3 themes, if you will, that you got to know as we run today's show. So coming out the gate, fighting for kids. That's where I am. I'm talking about the fact that we are making moves right now in an official capacity, not just now a social cultural, but in an official capacity. Moves are being made to protect kids. Liberal progressives are not on board. They could care less. But we're going to talk about what we're doing right now to watch in the fight for kids as number 1 on the Triple Dipper. Number 2, assuming I can get to it, border battles. Have y'all seen the numbers? They're like infinitesimally smaller by comparison in terms of illegal aliens crossing the southern border. Do you know that we are at decades lows right now? Like the lowest numbers of illegals encountered crossing the southern border in decades. I thought Biden said he didn't have the authority to get that done, but Trump did apparently in 30 days. We'll talk about the border battles and all the things going on down there, number 2 on the Triple Dipper. And then number 3, in conjunction with that conversation with Jeff Poor, meet the press. Y'all, the landscape for the media has changed dramatically with the advent of social media, influencers. You've got online news sites, newspapers are going by the wayside. Radio is still present, but the mediums are changing to podcasting so much. And then we're going to talk about that. And then, oh, by the way, look at who's being allowed to be in the press pool in the White House. It's a whole new day for the media. So meet the press, number 3 on the Triple Dipper. All right, let me jump on into the Rightside Way opening monologue. And I'll remind you guys that Attorney Stan McDonald, who I just spoke to this morning, Attorney Stan McDonald, a partner at the law firm of Wilmer & Lee. He is the daily sponsor of the Rightside Way monologue, and I'll tell you more about Stan McDonald here in just a minute. All right, this one's going to be a little more philosophical. I decided to set aside pure news and just do a commentary in terms of sort of a thing in life. And I believe I've said it before that I've built an entire life, me personally, an entire life out of shaving the corners off of square pegs and making them fit in round holes. I jokingly like to say that's my superpower. You take those little hard-edged square pegs, you round those suckers out till they fit right there in those round holes. I say it all the time. And really, it's because it's what I do. I mean, I do it all the time. Some have used the phrase square pegs and round holes to mean going against the grain or not fitting in or swimming against the tide, if you will. Not me. I see it as a phrase that speaks to problem solving, making things work that no one thought could work, pushing through the difficulties to arrive at success regardless of the beliefs of others that it could or could not get done. Look, don't tell me something can't be done. Just cut me loose and let me show you how. It's part of why I elected to go to law school in my 30s. You can't do that. Watch me. You can't run for the state senate against an incumbent. Watch me. You can't go down to Montgomery and fight the teachers union on school choice. You can't vote down the gas tax. Watch me. Or the latest one that I'm having fun with, you can't just start a media company out of thin air. Okay, watch me. Well, just this morning, I read a social media post by a guy that I follow on Twitter. He's notorious for poking at trolls on his socials. He's always got an upbeat attitude with a kind of a healthy dose of sarcasm. He's also a retired Green Beret Sergeant Major. This morning, he said he was thinking about doing a speech on resiliency. He said he's been shot twice, blown up, had 34 surgeries to repair his face, his jaw, his back, his hips. He also endured a $70,000 fraudulent credit card charge. He once failed a drug test in the military for reasons I can't imagine. And despite all of that, he presses on and keeps his daily travails and life issues front and center for all to see, and said that even with his new store-bought hip that was just replaced a month ago, he intends to run a 50-mile race and take the Army Combat Fitness Test in November this year. I mean, just wow. That's somebody who may have some life lessons to share, and I'm going to try to get him on a podcast. But what you just heard in all of that, though, was a don't quit attitude. He didn't get there overnight, though. It was built on a lifetime of shaving the corners off of square pegs and making them fit in round holes. He could have quit and no one would have questioned it, but he didn't. I was talking to a young lawyer recently about her next steps in her legal career. And I told her, I said, I'm of the firm belief you can beat every lawyer in town, even the smartest lawyer in town, if you'll just put in the time to research the nuances of the law. Why? Because as one older attorney told me years ago, most lawyers are lazy and they won't do the research. Or in my words, they don't want to take the time to see if they can make the legal square pegs fit into the legal round holes. But please take note, though. I was sharing something with her that had been told to me just years before. And that's key because, once you know this stuff, you got to share it. You got to pass it on. You got to bring up the next generation with the stories about what it means to actually stare adversity in the face and then change your circumstances. There was a great line from the movie Apollo 13. I hope you've seen it, the classic movie with an ensemble cast of people like Tom Hanks, Kevin Bacon, Bill Paxton, Gary Sinise, Ed Harris. It was about the Apollo moon launch that went bad and left our astronauts in the position of possibly dying in space. It's the mission that spawned the famous line, "Houston, we have a problem." Well, to save power in the middle of the crisis, the astronauts were having to shut down all their unnecessary systems and consolidating to one part of the lunar module. But that also meant shutting down one of their main oxygen generating systems. And the backup system, it was having trouble, but it also wasn't meant for the extended time they needed. And then to add to their problems, the parts from one part of the module didn't fit with the parts of the other part of the module. In essence, the filters they needed to use were actually square, but the air scrubbers they needed to use were actually round. Ed Harris played a guy named Gene Kranz. He was the ground team leader. And at one point in the movie, he looked at all the PhDs who were staring at him, and he said, "Well, gentlemen, I suggest you need to start working on fitting square pegs into round holes and do it expeditiously." That's exactly what they did. They took inventory of all of the stuff that was on board the lunar module, right down to the rolls of duct tape, and they figured out exactly how to save those men's lives by literally fitting squares into circles. It's an amazing story. But, I'm told that that's the way things are a lot of times. Like, for instance, it's actual practice in the construction of railroads. It's a common method of securing the steel rails to the timbers. They drive a square-cut spike into a pre-drilled round hole because it grabs the corners tighter and fits and stays. But look, even this desire to make things work, it still has to be tempered with wisdom. And that's another point that I need to make. Yes, you will have to have a don't quit attitude. Yes, you will have things that you need to overcome. But yes, you need to also operate in wisdom. And that's not an excuse, that's a temperance, because you can't always grab hold of things just because you think you can. Just because you can doesn't always mean you should. So more than once I've advised my legal clients they might be able to file a lawsuit because they feel aggrieved, but it does not guarantee they'll win. More times than I can count, I've been in a military situation, whether in war or training, in field or in garrison, and recognize that taking the high ground, whether figuratively or actually, might not be as effective as just bypassing it. Having started businesses and run organizations, I know that success sometimes meaning not trying to outpace your market. Okay, so bottom line, what's the fine line here? When do we look at life and decide whether or not to scrape off the corners of the square pegs we've been handed? Wisdom, that's what it boils down to. Is there a real problem? Then yes, solve it. Is there a real need? Then yes, meet it. Is there a worthy goal? Then absolutely work to achieve it. But I can look at some of the things I see in politics these days, and I feel like too often they try to justify their existence by holding up two handfuls of squared off, pegs, and they still can't get anything done with them because they have no wisdom whatsoever. I mean, think about some of the ordeals and the crazy policies we've been forced to endure and tell me where the wisdom was. For instance, do we want to care for the environment? Sure. But the world, the market, the technology is not ready for the Green New Deal. But yet they forced what Biden called the necessary transition, and gas prices went through the roof. They even told us climate change was the existential threat to the world, and therefore they made the Department of Defense focus on it, and our military readiness plummeted. Square pegs, round holes, no wisdom. How about this one? Do we believe in the care and concern for others? Of course we do. But you can't force us to subject our kids to drag queens and the improper use of pronouns in some kind of a strange quest for the false sense of what they call equity. Equity and equality are two different things. And gender dysphoria in an adult does not mean they get to subject their insecurities on children. Square pegs, round holes, no wisdom. How about this? Do we believe that women and minorities should be given the same chances to serve in positions of authority? Sure we do. But DEI almost became the ruin of corporations and colleges and city halls everywhere. Merit went away in favor of reverse discrimination in the name of DEI. We should have never accepted that the first qualification to be a Supreme Court justice for Ketanji Brown Jackson was whether or not she was proper for the highest court in the land simply because she was a black woman, and then approve her simply because she was a black woman. Look, I could go on, but listen, here's the thing. Here's my point. Overcoming adversity in life will absolutely be a question of resolve and resiliency and faith and effort, real effort. Square pegs can actually fit in round holes. I know, I've proved it time and time again. Square pegs in round holes, where there is a need, a will, a problem to solve, I'm all for it, but it should never be at the expense of all else, out of the blind and unwise position that nothing else matters except what I want. That's one of the problems in today's liberal progressive policies at the state and federal level. They lack wisdom. Just because they can doesn't mean they should, because it's wisdom that Scripture says we should seek above all else, wisdom. Otherwise, all you're doing is hammering on your square pegs and making noise. And that's a wrap for the Right Side Way. Yeah, I say that not to caveat my comments at all. I'd literally like to say that I have definitely lived an entire life of putting square pegs in round holes. Things I said couldn't be done got done. Things that I was told were difficult or unwise, well, they were wise and they got done. But the question is, what is your motive? Examine your motive. Take it before the Lord. Find the strength and the wisdom, and those square pegs will fit in those round holes. Phil Williams, Right Side Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Man, saving the world one soundbite at a time. I got a bunch of text messages already. Text lines are open. 833-687-4448. That's 833-68-RIGHT. Text it or call it. Same number for both. I got to tell you guys about my buddy Stan McDonald. So attorney Stan McDonald, he's a partner at the law firm of Wilmer and Lee out of Huntsville. Great firm, and he's a great guy. I know him personally. So Stan McDonald is a 30-year veteran in the practice of law in North Alabama. And not only will Stan advocate for your legal needs quite well, but listen, I just know for a fact, I know personally, Stan McDonald has been in the mix, y'all, in the fight as a warrior for conservative values and politics for decades. So take that to the bank. But yeah, attorney Stan McDonald, he has represented his clients in literally thousands of real estate transactions. He knows how to represent you in any local, state, or federal court. He's a true right side ruffian. I like to say when Stan McDonald's on your side, you'll have like no greater friend, and your adversaries would have no greater foe. So here's the deal. I'm going to tell you how to reach him. Here's his phone number. Attorney Stan McDonald at the law firm of Wilmer and Lee. He's an America First family man, and his phone number is 256-479-3020. That's 256-479-3020. And tell him you heard about it on Rightside Radio. No representation made. The quality legal service before is great. Quality legal service before the lawyers. Oh my gosh, that was a good one.
It's getting better.
I'm never going to get over having to just remark on that. Charlene says, why do you say something about it every time? I don't know. I just feel like it's funny.
It needs to be mocked.
It needs to be mocked. It deserves mocking. Bring forward the mocking. Let there be mocking. All right, so text lines, a couple minutes here. Scott from Russellville says he got him a late lunch for Taco Tuesday, and it was, yes, indeed, tacos. And then Dana from Athens, I answered a question for her earlier. She asked about the thing about Zelensky not signing the minerals deal, which, by the way, I'll tell you breaking news on some of that. But she said there's a report out, or there are discussion out, basically, that he had already signed this with the United Kingdom. And is that true? And so my response to her was, no, it doesn't appear to be true, because here's the breaking news. He has just announced he's ready to come back and sign with the U.S. now. And it would not be possible, in my opinion, for him to do that if he had already signed with the UK. So there's my thoughts. Anyway, we'll see how that goes. But yeah, we are hearing right now there's been sort of a hat in hand kind of moment. In fact, I'm not saying that. I read his tweet, the official tweet of Volodymyr Zelensky, saying the meeting went badly, shouldn't have gone the way it did. Didn't mean to cause offense. We value America's friendship and thank them for all the support they've had. We're ready to come back to the table. We do want peace. And we're ready for it, and I'm ready to come sign that deal.
Also, some reports that Trump will be announcing officially that in his speech tonight, so we'll see.
You know what? I'm not going to be a bit surprised, because I think the speech is going to be I'm not sure if it's officially designated the State of the Union. Do we ever decide that? It's not, is it?
I think it's just a joint speech to Congress.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's talk about Democrats trying to protest in the middle of it and all that.
I'm shocked.
Yeah.
No way, right?
You know what? If they do, though, they're on thin ice, in my opinion, right now.
Yeah.
And if they choose, I mean, this is not the House of Lords. We don't harumph and holler out and do things. And I know we've had onesies or twosies do that once in a while. And they even censured a Republican for that a couple of years ago when he hollered out liar to, was it Obama, I think?
Well, then also Marjorie Taylor Greene did it with the Laken Riley thing.
Yeah, say her name. Mm-hmm. Say her name. Yeah, and I just think, you know what? I don't want to be the House of Lords. Let's put decorum and professionalism into that chamber. Go fight in the back room. But if they try to protest, if they try to sit there and everyone wearing white dresses to her, who knows? God, I'm so tired of it. All that and more. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. Hey, all you Rightside ruffians out there, you are listening to Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. Just covering down on some major ground across the southeast U.S. of A, y'all. I'm talking about this show. Whew, goes from Huntsville all the way back over to Chattanooga. I'm talking about from Tuscaloosa back on over to Gadsden. I mean all the way down to that prettiest little town on the plains called Auburn, and yes, over to Fort Benning. I like saying it, Fort Benning. And oh, by the way, even big old patches of Georgia and Mississippi thrown in just for good measure. I like saying Fort Benning. It pleases me.
Not the hyphenated. Fort Benning.
No, it's like Fort Benning. By golly, I'm just glad. I'm just glad. I know some folks are like, I just don't see the point. General Moore is a great man. He was a great man. This is not a slap at General Moore. This is a poke in the eye to the wokists who thought they would rename everything and make the world better. It was just asinine. By the way, let me just chase a rabbit. Can I do that?
Sure.
Mr. President, I'd like a moment of personal privilege.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So renaming Fort Benning, renaming Fort Bragg as Benning and Bragg. You look at it and go, huh. So they didn't name them after the Confederate generals. Now they're honoring different people by the same name. Let me ask you a question. Why didn't the Democrats think of that? Why didn't they just say, we intend to remove all historical reference to Confederate soldiers, but we're not going to spend the millions of dollars to change the name. We're just going to say from henceforth, it will be known as honoring this Corporal Benning or that Private Bragg.
Because they don't think that way. They think of the, cute Liberty, cute name Liberty. They don't think that far ahead.
No, they don't.
They didn't, and I honestly don't think they expected Trump to go out and make it a point to change him back.
They did not see this coming.
No,
not at all. Chuckleheads.
They're not creative, so.
They're not. I mean, checkers versus chess, right?
Yeah.
Although somebody did point out, checkers does require a bit of strategy.
Mm-hmm.
It does. Jeff from Indiana checking in. He says, hey, Phil, blockheaded Democrats are masters of putting square pegs in round holes. Yeah, but not the same thing. Like I said, square pegs, round holes is okay. It's the wisdom that determines whether they should go there or not. Brian from Huntsville says, square pegs and round holes. Kamala Harris said, I was scared we might not get her out of that round hole called the White House. Nice. Clint from Tony says, I spent 30 plus years as a multi-craft maintenance technician. I assume that means military. Thank you very much. So basically my job description read, if it breaks, fix it, whether you have the needed parts or not. Basically, people in my trade spend most of their careers being detectives and inventors, making supervisory personnel meet their quotas. It's absolutely doable, but you have to dial your head in and not accept defeat. Man, I love that quote. That's like, why don't we just put that on a bumper? That whole thing, that's a one big bumper sticker right there. T-shirt. John from Huntsville, Phil, spectacular monologue, and I just got through eating some delicious tacos. Said, by the way, the wind is howling in Huntsville, and I was working in my junkyard, and I said to myself, I hope these trees don't fall on me. And all of a sudden, a sizable tree limb breaks and falls right in front of me, and I thought, this is a sign from God, it's time to go inside. I would say that's wisdom. Just saying. Yeah, we do have some strong weather advisories. I've actually got a men's Bible study that usually meets on Tuesday night, and we went ahead and called it for the night. And it's, you know what? I may wind up getting to the time we would have met and gone, well, it's not even raining outside. But then again, if I didn't, who knows? So, yep, that's what we're doing. Y'all be weather aware tonight, all right? John C. from Madison said, I knew Zelensky would come back. I had a feeling. Tom from Tanner, Alabama says, I think that was your best lawyer liner all time. Has to be close to record speed with excellent comprehensibility. Nice. Might ought to just grab that one. Although it's kind of fun to try and see if I can get it done every day. Some days I've had my coffee and I'm good to hook.
Yeah, it takes all the fun out of it to record it.
And then last one, Mike from Florence. Oh, maybe not the last one. Mike from Florence says, just to toot my horn, shortly before my 18th birthday, 44 years ago, he says, I was with my buddy at a New Year's Eve bash. When we left, this is a long text. He said when we left, he hit a pothole in his 73 Pinto. Wow. Said the rear tire started scrubbing, and upon investigation, I saw the leaf spring had broken. Nothing was open. Both nearly broke. No towing coverage. Needed to get home. I looked at the back of the car, saw some manila rope. I had my manila rope. Said I had my friend push on the rear end while holding the bumper, and I looped the rope several times from the rear to the bracket. Finished by wrapping it. Basically, what he's saying is he jerry-rigged that bad boy, and they drove home. No book, he said. Definitely no online solution. Got it done. Square peg, round hole. Had to get done, didn't it, Mike? Outstanding. All right. And I do see now Jeff from Indiana giving me clarification. Thank you, Jeff. All right, listen, I'm going to jump into this topic. Dipper number one, coming up top of the hour, we'll have Emily Jones on first, and then bottom of the next hour, we'll have a collegiate athlete named Macy Petty coming on, who's very active now with Concerned Women for America. If you didn't see it, last night the Democrats showed their true colors. You saw that, I guess, didn't you? I mean,
Yeah.
this goes right in line with your most recent podcast about the NCAA.
Yep. It's, you're going to get into it more, but I think that just shows how out of touch the left has become. It's no longer about what the American people want. It's Trump wants it, or in this case, Tuberville wants it. It's bad.
Yeah.
Nay, that's all. There's no thinking past that. And it's rather frustrating, but also expected to some degree.
So if you're not familiar, to back you up on this, what's going on is Alabama Senator Tommy Tuberville, who has a long history in coaching, he took up the cause of protecting women's and girls' sports. That's what it's called, the Protecting Women's and Girls' Sports Act. And it was up before the Senate last night. Not a single Democrat voted to support this bill to keep men out of women's sports. Not a single one. I mean, you look at that and go, my gosh. I mean, some of y'all may be, progressive in some ways, but you get it. You claim to have a faith-based worldview, and yet you do stuff like this. So none of them, not a single one, voted for it. Well, the bill required 60 votes, which meant that we had to have, at the minimum, 8, maybe 9 Democrats would have had to defect and come over and support the bill. I will tell you there's 2 things here. One is the priority was to try and pass the bill. That didn't happen. And you also look at it and go, well, Phil, why'd they move forward then if they didn't have the votes yet? Because number 2 on this is to get them on the record. Make them have to stand by their vote in the future. Make them have to do something that they will have to answer to now. Because if you notice, Chuck Schumer, what he always did was he put the hard stuff, the scary stuff off to the side that he didn't want because it put them on the record. Well, John Thune said, we're not playing that game anymore. You guys don't get to hide behind the no vote and pretend that you would have done something, but we never got the chance. No. You're now on the record. You voted to keep transgender dudes in women's sports. Live with yourself. Live with yourself during the campaigns. Live with yourself, Senator John Ossoff from Georgia, there's already talk about a primary against him. You live with yourself. People who allegedly are, centrist Democrats. I'm not all that stuff. You went to the far left of your party on this one, every one of you.
And I wonder if they would think the same if their daughters were going up against a man.
Well, that's it. Ossoff is a dad of a daughter.
Yeah.
And you look at it and go, come on, man. You would not want this in your daughter's locker room. You would not for a second want this in your daughter's locker room.
And I mean, I think about my sister who's a college basketball player. I would not be able to sit in the stands idly by and watch her go up against, I just don't think I could do it. So you can kowtow to your radical left, part of your party all you want, but if you're in that situation, if you're a good dad at least, or a good relative to whoever, I would hope that you would think much differently. So
I happen to know your family quite well because they're my family.
Yeah.
But the one that I could see actually going into the locker room and making trouble, you know who it is? It's your mom.
Yeah.
Your mom would go in there with a stick in her hand.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because she was a collegiate athlete. Mm-hmm. She could go in that locker room freely. Mm-hmm. And oh, by God, I think she would have at it. Mm-hmm. Here's the thing. Protecting our kids. We're doing something officially now, though. And this is important to recognize. We lost the vote last night because Democrats can't see past the noses on their face. They can't see past the most liberal base that they have to deal with in their party. But it is not slowing us down. Here's something that you need to know about tonight's speech. President Trump is giving an address to the joint session of House and Senate. He's announced he has guests coming. His guests are, first of all, the widow of a murdered NYPD officer, Jonathan Diller, who I believe was killed by an illegal alien. The family of Pennsylvania firefighter Corey Comparatori, who is the one who died at Butler, Pennsylvania when Trump was shot. And then he's bringing a guest, is a female athlete who has traumatic brain injury from a volleyball that was spiked into her face by a man that was allowed to compete against her. And then he's bringing in a mother who saved her daughter from being transitioned by the school. When she found out what was happening, she got involved and made sure they didn't do things without her permission. 2 of those 4 guests that he's got coming in tonight on his personal invitation are related to the issue of what is happening right now with liberal progressives trying to get to our kids. That's an amazing thing. Think about it. 50% of his guests tonight are related to the idea of protecting kids, fighting for kids, honoring people who fight for kids. So, in that vein, I will take note. Fox News, Dateline yesterday. By the way, I'm back on paper. No more cardstock today.
You didn't want to stick with the cardstock?
It rattles again. I don't have the tunk, tunk, tunk. I don't know if you saw it or not, but WWE World Wrestling Entertainment CEO Linda McMahon was just confirmed the Secretary of Education. Story here on Fox is that she has been put in the office and immediately announced what is called the final mission. What? Yes. She sent a memo out to every employee in the U.S. Department of Education. They should begin preparing themselves to work themselves out of a job. That they will be dismantling the Department of Education under the authority of the president and moving it back to a state's issue. Wow. Now, I don't know to what extent Congress may or may not have to get involved. We'll find out. At the very least, I guarantee you, in her words, she's going to scale down the bloatedness in that department. So, that being said, protecting kids, in part, is dealing with the Department of Education. Why did I bring that up in this relation? Because the department under the Biden administration that led the charge to allow transgenders in sports was the Department of Education. The Department of Education under the Biden administration is the one that reinvented or reimagined Title IX, the law that's been in place since 1972 to protect women's rights in education to include sports. They decided that they interpreted it to mean gender is gender identity. Therefore, they could do what they wanted in terms of enforcing the whole gender ideology on schools nationwide. That came through the Department of Education as they tried to enforce an agenda that nobody wanted except a very small minority of progressives. That department's now being dismantled. Can I have some applause on that? Because that's huge. That's so protecting kids, there are official steps being done right now to protect kids. This transgender ideology, this idea that men should be allowed to compete in women's sports, and oh, by the way, hang out in the women's locker room. And how many times now are we seeing that there's a court case about someone who did something in a locker room where they shouldn't have been in the first place? The NCAA can't get their act together. They're facing a lawsuit right now because they've got a very ambiguous policy, which JP talked about in his monologue this week. Well, all that to say, there are official things being done right now to deal with the issue because we are done sitting idly by. In the meantime, we're going to take a break. I'll take a break right now. I'll come right back. I'll jump on into this topic a little bit more, and coming up top of the hour, we'll have Emily Jones from Moms for Liberty on to talk about it some more. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid conservative, just plain right. Just making common sense like a superpower. Brand new texter in the string here, Jack from Huntsville. Jack, we're glad you're around. What do we got here? Is it a word? Is it a definition? What are we looking at? Bricolage? Bricolage? Is that a word?
Bricolage?
A construction made of whatever materials are at hand, something created from a variety of available things. Bricolage. I like that. Am I pronouncing it correctly?
Or is it French of bricolage?
Bricolage. Thanks, Jack. Appreciate you. Glad you're in the text lines. Russell from Rural Route 1. Oh, my gosh, I have a hard time saying it. Russell from... I can say that whole thing about the lawyer thing, and I can hardly say Russell from Rural Route 1.
Because you're trying to say it right. It's just Rural Route 1. Rural Route.
Rural Route. It's Rural Route. Russell Rural Route. Run. Okay, anyway. Just a little quick math. He says if you take the total budget of the Department of Education and divide it by the total of public school students, it'd be over $5,000 per student. Wow. Nice. I think what we'll also see, too, is that a big part of that budget will go away, though, because a part of that budget does nothing but support the bureaucracy and the payroll and the buildings and all of it in D.C. I mean, there's an amazing amount of money being spent to just support government. That's part of the point here is this is also, you look at it and go, why do we need this? Why do we need centralized control on this? Now, I think that there will still wind up being some standards that have to be enforced, like, that there will be, you can't have states that basically don't provide education. You can't have states that don't provide lunches for kids. You can't. They'll do some things. But I think by and large, you're going to see the policy making and the jackassery that takes place out of the Department of Education right now. But think about this. The Department of Education was actually created by, guess who? Jimmy Carter, by executive order. So it hasn't been around forever. It's been around here just in my lifetime. And it's, one of the worst presidents in our history that put it in place. And Jimmy Carter put it there. And what has it accomplished? Nothing. No one can point to anything that it says the Department of Education is responsible for that great success, because education numbers have not climbed. In fact, we have fallen on the world stage with the Department of Education being in place. So how about no? All right, a couple more things here. Just so you know, we had, just an update real quick, we had Laurel Libby on the show last week. She's doing an amazing job being basically a stand-in-the-gap type person. Laurel Libby, state representative from Maine, who has been censured by the state house in Maine for daring to speak out against the idea of transgender dudes playing women's sports. And Laurel Libby was on this show last week. She's gone viral. She's been on Fox and all these others. She's just making a major dent in the issue. Well, guess what? She's also dealing with Governor Janet Mills, the same governor who danced at a drag show where kids were present last year, the same governor who just told Donald Trump she wasn't going to change her policies and is willing to accept the possible loss of revenues and legal action from the AG's office. Well, Governor Janet Mills just had over 500 people show up to protest her, and that hasn't happened before. So the people of Maine are getting sick of it. And I'm just saying, fighting back for kids, this is like a large, organized, grassroots activist group that got together at the State House in Maine and protest. I have been at our State House in Alabama when people show up on the steps to protest. Getting 50 to 100 people there is a good little gathering. Getting 500 people there is a statement, a true statement. So, yeah. Plus, it's Maine, so it's probably cold. just saying. All right, so yeah, we'll talk in a few minutes here with Emily Jones when she calls in. But one thing I got to point out is the Senate Democrats continue to beclown themselves. I don't know if you saw it. I posted it on my social media. You can follow me on Twitter at @SinPhilWilliams or at Facebook. But they all decided to protest Trump in the Senate. And so 22 separate Democrats all posted the exact same scripted video like, apparently you're not original.
Not similar. Literally identical.
Identical.
Word for word.
I posted a compilation video. Have you seen that?
Yes. Yeah.
All right, coming up next, Emily Jones, Moms for Liberty. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back.
listening live to Rightside Radio with Phil Williams. It's hard to go wrong when you're on the right side. Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right.
Alabama and Tennessee's syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live in the Rightside studios. Man, we got the local, the state, the national, covering down on all the issues. And oh yeah, like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, welcome to hour number 2 on a Meatloaf Monday. And I'm sorry, it's not Meatloaf Monday. What am I doing?
I was about to say,
I got that stuck in my head. Taco Tuesday. It's all about the food, whatever it is. Some of y'all are thinking, am I hearing a recording? Yeah, Taco Tuesday. Hey, listen, we're in the same discussion about fighting for kids. And look, one of my favorite people when it comes to fighting for kids is one of our contributors here. Emily Jones is the founder of Moms for Liberty in Madison, the first Moms for Liberty chapter in the state of Alabama. She's been making waves locally and statewide. And she's also one of our podcasters. She's got the Controversial Mom podcast when the latest edition came out Sunday night, talking about church and politics on that one. So yeah, let's quit talking and bring her on. Hey, Emily Jones, how you doing?
Doing good. How are y'all?
We're good. Hey, are y'all a meatloaf house, by the way?
It depends on the situation, but you said that, and I literally turned my head sideways, and I'm like, please tell me today is not Monday. You had me for a second.
Sorry. Yeah, it's apparently I got meatloaf on the brain. All right. Hey, listen, I know you saw the vote from last night, the Tuberville bill. That's our senator, Tommy Tuberville, in the fight for kids. But I want to point out something. You may have heard this. I know you were listening to the show earlier, but he's got several guests tonight. He's doing a speech to the joint session of Congress. And of his 4 guests, 2 of them, 50% of them, one's a female athlete who was injured by a dude she had to be in competition with, and the other is a mother who saved her daughter from being transed without her permission by the school system that was trying to do things, without the parents knowing. Take any of that and run with it.
Yeah, I love Trump 2.0 because he is pulling out all the stops. He does not have to worry about re-election. He's ticked off, and he is very comfortable just doing whatever needs to be done. So I think it's hilarious and great that he's platforming these people because they need it. We need to face the reality of what all this ridiculousness in our society has done, not to just women in general, but the face of it. This is what these decisions are doing. So I think it's fabulous that he's doing it. It's horrible that we have these situations, but people need to see this firsthand. These are the consequences of these decisions or lack of decisions in the case with this Senate vote last night. So I'm extremely happy that he's doing it, and I hope that it helps to wake up all these people that keep saying, well, that's not true, that doesn't happen.
Well, listen, I mean, I know you've been in the fray. You've been in the fight for things that are best for kids and the idea that the school systems don't get to make the decisions that parents should be the ones making. But I also look at this vote last night, and I realize that legislators are elected to vote. I mean, I knew what it was like to go to Montgomery in the state Senate and vote my conscience on behalf of my constituents. But I have a hard time believing that every single Senate Democrat, every single one of them, all felt strongly that having transgender dudes playing girls' sports was really what their constituents wanted and what they wanted to do themselves. What do you think?
Yeah, it's nonsense. No one actually believes this crap unless they're delusional themselves. But it's funny because last week we were down in Montgomery for the legislative days with the Republican Women's Group. And we were talking to, I can't remember which legislator it was, but they flat out told us that they have, at the state level, they have elected Democrats coming to them to say, we support what you're doing, we support these bills, but we cannot vote to support them because there's so much pressure within the Democratic Party that if we go on the record voting one way, in favor of these things with you guys, we'll be destroyed. So, I mean, that's at the state level. There's the pressure on them at a congressional level is unthinkable. So I don't think they agree with any of it, but they absolutely have no choice if they want to continue to run as a Democrat. They have to vote for it. which is really sad. And also, I'm a little jealous because I wish people feared the Republican Party that much and voted based on our platform and what we believe versus just doing what they want. But, maybe one day.
You know what? Here's the thing, though, and I hear you say that, but I have often found to be true that when people say, "Oh, this is political suicide, man. You don't want to go down that road. You might want to take a walk on this bill. Don't get on the record," that every single time you just stand up and look everybody in the eye and go, screw y'all. This is what I'm here for. They always respect that. I had never found a time when I was voting contrary to the flow that somebody didn't look at me and go, "Well, I respect that." And they may not like it, but then, you know what? I also never got beat. So I got reelected. I mean, I had teachers union folks telling me they were going to make sure I never got reelected because I dared to do these things. And I had guys that were quaking in their boots around me because the teachers union might come after me. Well, they came after me hard. And guess what? I went back for a second term. I mean, I just wish more people would take a I don't care what you think stand.
Yeah, well, ask RFK and Tulsi Gabbard how it worked out for them when they did it, because I think they would agree that it was worth the battle.
Absolutely worth the battle. And look where they are right now. They're the ones who are still standing. What does it Scripture says? You will look for them and they will not be found. Well, that's the bad guys. The ones who stand are the ones you're still seeing.
Absolutely.
Well, so let's talk about that for a minute. So Tuberville's bill went down on a straight party line vote last night. He had to have 60, which meant we needed some defectors. I say defectors, it shouldn't be a defect. But we needed some people to come over across the aisle, and they didn't do it. So the vote is now down. We got it through the House with a couple of Democrats joining. Couldn't get it in the Senate. It's a state fight for right now. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I mean, and thank God Alabama's kind of ahead of them on this. We passed that a while back, and hey, we now know what a woman is in the state of Alabama. 3 years later, we finally got that done. I've not harped on that enough. I know. But yeah, I mean, it absolutely is a state fight now. I mean, you've got places like Maine. Y'all were talking about that earlier. They're, at least for the moment, they're digging their heels in, and they're going to let this happen. I'm sure California will do the same, New York, all the crazy ones. But it really does come down to individual states at this point until we can figure out another strategy to get it done at a federal level. I mean, maybe Trump pulling back all their money will help them figure it out, but it absolutely is going to be an individual state battle, and probably even from there it's going to be a local school battle, because you're going to have schools within these crazy blue states that don't want to do it, and they're going to have to fight from within just to figure out how you survive by implementing that policy when your state's saying no, we're not, but your federal government's saying yes, we are.
Well, and I'm wondering if it's ever going to get to the Supreme Court. Because really? I mean, the Supreme Court I don't think is going to sit still for the idea. I mean, we already know that Title IX has been protected now. The Biden administration is out, and the Trump administration brought a whole new day in for that. And the Supreme Court, if I'm not mistaken, pretty much put an end to the idea of regulatory interpretations of laws now without congressional action. But I'm not so sure that we're through with this idea that states can try to perpetrate transgenderism in education and in sports without somebody having to sue and take it all the way to the Supreme Court in an affirmative action. I mean, I don't know. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I get really confused on that whole thing, to be honest with you. So we've got where, because did the Supreme Court officially rule on Title IX, or did Biden end up just pulling it back because it was trending towards the Supreme Court?
Well, one of the main things that happened was a separate case that said that they could no longer use what was known as the Chevron rule, which allowed the different departments to, quote unquote, interpret the law because they weren't sure what Congress meant, so they could interpret it how they saw fit. And so that went away. The Chevron rule is no longer there. They have to either have clarity or get Congress to give them clarity. They can't interpret it for themselves. So I think one of the things that we saw, though, was that Title IX is protected just on that grounds alone.
That's right. I remember this now.
But
it's been a very active 6 months.
Oh my gosh, it's been like flying in a helicopter with the doors open. But and JP was just saying a minute ago. JP, you just saw another state just declare the What is a Woman Act. Who is that?
The Indiana governor, Mike Braun, signed 2 executive orders recognizing the biological binary of man and woman and protecting girls from boys invading their sports.
Okay,
so that was about 20 minutes ago.
Those were executive orders 20 minutes ago. He's what state?
Indiana.
Indiana, that's right. Well, good. All right. Outstanding.
Nice.
Well, listen, there's more room for this, but it ain't going to happen without parental involvement. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to, like y'all are talking about, it's going to take parents getting involved, moms going into the locker room with a big stick and just whacking people over the head and telling them to get out. It's going to get to that point because, I mean, people are fed up with it. They just, no one believes this crap anymore. And you've got all three branches of government and you still can't figure this out. So I just think that the tolerance level has been exceeded and parents are really going to get ticked off. And now, thankfully, parents have a way to report this nonsense to the Department of Ed.
Yep.
So, the Dear Colleague letter went out a couple weeks ago that basically told public schools you have until the 28th to get rid of all this radical DEI nonsense in your schools or potentially lose funding. So we've been busy submitting complaints in the state of Alabama. And
no, not you.
I would not ever stir that pot. I did it, and then I sent it to 3 or 4 other people and said, hey, you should submit one too. But like you said, they've got the Secretary of Education confirmed, and she's ready to dismantle it. So now is the time for parents to step up because you've got more support than ever. But no one knows the details of what's going on in the school more than the actual parent of the child.
That's right. And no one should know more, and no one should have more decision-making authority than the actual parent or legal guardian of the child. And I guess the last thought on this too is if we don't see this, here's one of the reasons why it has to be a federal issue on this, because it's a true gender discrimination issue, really. And we already protect race-based discrimination, gender-based discrimination from the federal level. This is what that is. But you're also going to have a patchwork quilt. If you've got somebody in Arizona that's in a state that recognizes only man and woman and California won't, guess what? You have cross-border sports. You have teams in Arizona that have to play teams in California. What are you going to do?
Right.
And so it's going to be a weird dynamic if they don't start getting a handle on it pretty soon.
Yeah. Well, and then the federal funding that goes into all of them. I mean, there's not a school out there that doesn't get Title IX funding.
Yep.
So are you going to penalize one state's program and not another? I mean, it just gets dicey really quick. So they're going to have to deal with it very, very quick. I mean, and they kind of have, right? They've done the executive orders and all that, and they've said if you don't comply, we're pulling back federal funding. But they're going to have to get to the point of following through on that, making a couple of examples, and then I think schools will get in line. But it's just going to take time, but they're going to have to do it.
Well, they're going to have to do it. And right now, I feel like we've been given breathing room to do it, even though we lost the vote last night because of Democrats. But all right, Emily Jones, host of the Controversial Mom podcast as part of the Rightside family and also with Moms for Liberty. Thanks again, as always.
Thank you.
See ya. All right, we're taking a break. We'll come right back. I'll get a couple of text messages and get ready for our next guest. Folks, I'm just telling you, this issue ain't going away. You know why? Because it's about our kids. That's why. And they're worth fighting for. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Just, I mean, like, man, saving the world one soundbite at a time. Yeah, I really do think it's significant. Tonight's speech for Trump, and first of all, it's not been categorized officially that I'm aware of as a State of the Union address. I mean, he's only been there for what, 45 days? Is it been, how long has he been in office? Is it not even 60 days, maybe 40, 45 days?
Something like that,
Yeah.
around there.
Yeah.
It's not officially a State of the Union, but that's pretty much what it is.
Yeah, but you know what? The amount of change he's already put into place
Yeah.
has been pretty epic.
The State of the New Union.
I know.
The 45-day-old New Union.
But I do think it is absolutely significant that 50% of his guests tonight are related to the idea of protecting kids. He's got 4 guests, just a reminder. Bradley Jay announced this on his social media. Bradley Jay announced that Trump has his guest for tonight's address, the widow of a murdered NYPD officer, a guy named Jonathan Diller. I'm not positive, but I think he might have been killed by an illegal alien. I'm not positive. Family of a Pennsylvania firefighter, Corey Comparatori, who is the guy who died when the assassination attempt on Trump failed in Butler, Pennsylvania. And then the other 2, one is a female athlete, a volleyball player, who suffered a spike to the face by a dude who wasn't even supposed to be playing women's sports. Spike to her face, and she's got traumatic brain injury from it. And the other is a mother who saved her daughter when the school system was trying to keep secret from the parents that they were helping her transition. You know, don't tell your mom and dad. We'll help you with that because, you know, we know better than your parents. Well, the mom found out and stepped in and saved her daughter. And guess what? She's a guest tonight at the State of the Union, or the speech. That's huge, in my opinion, and should not be overlooked.
I think it would be awesome if, when Trump was introducing the volleyball player who played against a male athlete, just say, you know what? You got 45 Democrats who voted to continue what just happened to
He
you.
probably will.
And I will soak every second of it up.
I think he should.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder how many of them won't even be in the room. There's a bunch of them that are allegedly going to protest by not being there, or I don't know, all wearing their matching dresses or matching ties. Who knows?
We'll miss their presence so much.
Yeah. Thomas Mathen says not a single Dem to support this bill. Got them on the record. Start developing those political ads to primary those misguided trans Dems or best them in some general election. Says there are 13 Dems up in 2026, including John Ossoff from Georgia. So my wife and I plan to join up with the mighty Alabama Strike Force to put our 80-year-old boots on the ground and campaign door-to-door for Ossoff's opponent. Yeah, thank you, by the way, Thomas, for that. And if you're not familiar, by the way, the Alabama Republican Party is very strong in terms of being there for our neighboring states. The mighty Alabama Task Force, I was just texting with somebody else a moment ago about Joan Reynolds, who has headed up that effort on behalf of the state party for the last several years or several election cycles. She's done an amazing job. And they call it the mighty Alabama Strike Force, and they go knock on doors in other states to help Republicans prevail in their election efforts. And they're indefatigable. I mean, they do an amazing job. So thank you, Thomas, for being one of those.
It's really a shame Georgia has 2 Democratic senators.
Oh, it's awful.
It's got to change.
It's awful. I mean, it's just...
I get they were elected in 2020, which, all the madness with that election, but still, it doesn't seem right.
It's awful. Warnock.
Yeah.
What a cartoon that guy is.
And Herschel Walker almost beat him. And
I know. And Herschel Walker's got a heart of gold, man.
Yeah.
Bobby from Huntsville says, I hope tonight's speech includes how all the Democrats voted on the man and women's sports and show everyone who voted for this and how they can get a list of names for everybody who voted. Well, the list of names is out there. All you got to do is look in the news or social media. But yes, you might as well go ahead and say, give me the Democrat roll call. And there it is. All right, coming up next, we got a guest, Macy Petty, a former collegiate athlete, now with Concerned Women for America. She knows firsthand what it's like to have to play against a dude, and she's got thoughts on it. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. Hey, all you Rightside ruffians out there, you are listening to Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. I'm saying, covering down on some major ground across the southeast U.S. of A. Y'all, this show goes like from Huntsville back on over to Chattanooga, from Tuscaloosa back on over to Gadsden, all the way down to that prettiest little town on the plains called Auburn and stretching over to Fort Benning. And y'all, I do mean there's even big old patches of Georgia and Mississippi thrown in just for good measure. All right, we're going back to the phones right now. I've got a guest coming on who's not been on the show before, but man, she is out there making waves already. So Macy Petty is coming in just a moment here. Macy Petty, she is a 4-year NCAA volleyball collegiate athlete, played at Lee University, which is right here in our listening area up there, I believe in Cleveland, Tennessee. And she got involved in legislative matters when she was still in her dorm room in college. And she is now currently working as a legislative strategist and a women's sports spokesperson for the National Organization of Concerned Women for America, which is a great organization, very conservative, very solid, very well respected. Macy Petty also, though, by the way, can talk firsthand about what it's like to have to play against a dude who thinks he's a chick playing in women's sports, and that's not the way it's supposed to be. So let me just quit talking and bring her on right now. Macy Petty, welcome to Rightside Radio.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for making time. Hey, listen, before we go too much further, am I correct that you were there last night when the vote went down in the Senate?
I was, yes. I currently live on Capitol Hill, so have been in the nitty-gritty following this bill and was there in the Senate gallery watching as the senators were casting their votes on the Protection of Women and Girls in Sports Act.
So let me ask you this. I mean, were they just casting their votes reluctantly, or were they like joyful to vote no on this? I mean, were they hanging their head in shame, or were they up in arms and excited to do it?
Oh, it depends on the senator. Some of them couldn't be more proud to replace women in sports with men, but some of them, you could tell they knew that the vote that they were casting was the end of their political career. They went up there and they were kind of reluctant. I would like to believe the Lord was convicting their hearts, but they knew what they were doing and they cast their vote anyway.
Yeah, all of them, like in lockstep.
Mm-hmm.
So is there, I know that you were up there doing your part, lobbying for good conservative policy through Concerned Women for America, but who were the groups up there lobbying against the bill? I mean, I can imagine who they were, but who did you see out there doing the lobbying on the opposite side of the aisle?
Yeah, I didn't see a lot of them in the gallery supporting it, but I'm sure a lot of that happens behind the scenes, and I'm sure a lot of them are the groups that financially profit off of mutilating children's bodies, because ultimately that's what this comes down to.
Yeah.
But like I said, none of them were there to openly champion this or stand there in person as the votes were cast, because few people want their faces actually attached to something that has such bad public opinion ratings.
Yeah, and there's quite a few of them that are actually up for re-election in 2026, and some of them from what I would call purple states, even leaning red states like Ossoff
Right.
in Georgia.
Ossoff in Georgia, that's exactly right. He is up for re-election in 2026, and Georgians are not happy about this. 73% of Georgians oppose men and women's sports, and that's what Ossoff is going to have to answer to in
Wow.
2026.
Yeah, and I saw a poll that said that, generally speaking, on a national level, upwards of 79% of Americans on both parties agree that men and women's sports is a bad idea and they don't want it. 79%. And I jokingly say, you could poll, do you love your mother? You wouldn't get 79%.
Right. I heard somebody joke that this bill's more popular than ice cream, and I think you just couldn't be more right. It's so funny. But you're right, 79% of respondents. And you know who conducted that poll? It was the New York Times.
Oh.
Even the New York Times admits 79% of people see clearly on this issue.
Wow. Well, I know you see clearly on it. Obviously, you're doing the work on it. But let me ask you this: I understand you had a situation where, when you were being recruited to play, by College Scouts, you had to play against a guy at one point. What was that experience?
Yeah, absolutely. So like you said, played college volleyball. I'm really tall. Your listeners can't tell that over the radio, but I'm really tall. My dad is 6'8", so as soon as I can walk, they started teaching me how to play sports. But I knew pretty early on I wanted to play college volleyball, and so did all the things that kids don't typically want to do. I spent a lot of time in the gym practicing my skills, weightlifting, sprinting, doing those things, and got involved in club volleyball because that's kind of the gateway into college sports because these big club national tournaments are where college scouts can see all of the athletes at once. And of course, I never got to go to prom or do vacations or anything like that because I was always at these club tournaments. But at one tournament in particular, I walked up to the court and I saw a lot of college scouts there to evaluate our skills. And, I'm excited. I'm nervous. This is kind of my moment where I need to show off the things I had been working on for so long.
Yeah.
And then I look at my opponent and he's in basketball shorts. And I was like, what is going on? And I see him play. I'm like, this is not right. This is a boy. It's pretty obvious. But this was 5 or 6 years ago at this point. And so this wasn't really a debate happening on a national stage. It was certainly not, a presidential campaign promise by any means. This wasn't something people were talking about. And so I just kind of assumed that it was cheating and that the rule makers were going to find out about it and put a stop to it. And I couldn't be more wrong. Obviously, this has only continued since then, and I learned that these rule makers didn't have our best interest in mind or fairness in general. And so I was asked to testify for the first time, like you said, when I was a freshman in college, just from my dorm room at Lee. And when I first heard of a Save Women's Sports bill that said that boys have to play on boys' teams, I'll tell you, I thought it was the stupidest thing I have ever heard in my life. It's like, what do you mean we need a bill that says boys have to play on boys' teams? But I testified on it anyway, and it didn't pass because they told me this wasn't a real issue, that I was making it up. But here we are, 5 years later now, and the president has promised to restore integrity to women's sports, and he followed through on that. I was able to be there on stage with the president as he signed the historic Keeping Men Out of Women's Sports executive order. And of course, we're now seeing Congress work together to try and codify these protections. Unfortunately, there are Senate Democrats who are completely committed to blocking such protections. But it's amazing to see how this issue has developed and seen how it has emboldened female athletes in their pursuit of truth and their defense of truth in their communities and public square.
Well, so you were actually there the day that Trump signed the executive order. And
I was.
that
yes.
was such a great moment. And I look at it and I thought Democrats handed him, first of all, a political coup. They just handed it to him.
Oh my goodness.
But then
I know.
But then let me ask you this: the mood looked like it was jubilant. It looked sincere. And my question was, Democrats say it was showboating on his part, but my view was he appeared to be very heartfelt and sincere in it.
Oh, it absolutely was. I couldn't help but tear up a little bit as I was standing up there and I watched the President of the United States come up and just acknowledge all of the, truly like heartfelt champion female athletics and promise to stand with them and us. There were some girls there who were maybe 5 or 6 and just starting to kick a soccer ball around. And then there's also athletes like myself and Riley who have faced the, of course, fallout of putting men in women's sports and have since retired out of college sports, but are still in the fight because of what we experienced and trying to protect the next generation. And so it was really cool to just see the multi-generation standing on stage and having a president, like you said, that was just truly championing female athletics and just the joy that we were able to share on stage. Because like I said, many of us were in this when we were told this wasn't a real issue. So to see someone who recognized just how much the former administration had been putting on female athletes, it was a wonderful, beautiful time.
Well, that is so cool. You got to be there that day, and let me ask you this: we got about 3 minutes left here. So one of the things that I think we're going to deal with now that we don't have a law in place at the national level is this patchwork quilt of states doing their thing. Some states, Tennessee, Alabama, a number of others. We just heard Indiana today. Are saying ain't going to happen in our state. But then you got California, you got Maine, you got a bunch of others that are. You're going to have, I mean, as a collegiate athlete, you had to cross state lines to play other schools. So
Absolutely.
the NCAA has got to get their act together on this.
You're exactly right. And there is federal legislation. There's been federal legislation for 50 plus years, and it's called
True.
Title IX, and it says on the basis of sex. But we have, of course, presidents who have been unwilling to recognize that it's on the basis of sex. And so while I'm grateful for President Trump and his wonderful executive order that is protecting women's sports, we have already seen that he is committed to implementing that in his administration. But we, of course, need to codify those protections and that clarification that men have to play on men's teams under Title IX protections. And so Senator Tuberville, of course, has been just a fearless leader on this issue in the Senate. Got to watch him vote for his legislation last night, which was such an honor because I know that that's something he's worked so hard on. But of course, the vote did not go through and it failed via filibuster. But public opinion is only increasing on this. You mentioned that New York Times poll, which increased 10% in only a year.
Yeah.
So as we see President Trump implement the fact that boys have to play on boys teams and girls have to play on girls teams, I think public opinion is only going to keep growing. And hopefully, of course, politics will adjust, and these senators who are completely out of step will eventually get out of the way of the American people in our political representative process. But we also shouldn't forget that, of course, S9 failed last night, but we also have HR 28, which is the Protection of Women and Girls in Sports Act, which passed in the House.
Right.
So the Senate does have another opportunity to vote on this. Hopefully we can get some more support on the ground and have people let their senators know how they can best represent them when they go to vote on this legislation. So there definitely is a bright future ahead and lots of opportunities to continue working to codify those protections.
Well, you are an excellent spokesperson for your cause. Let me just go ahead and tell you.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
No, so do I. I mean, literally, this was we got this connection here like an hour before I went on the air, and I never had a chance to speak to you before. But I'm just sitting back thinking, you've got a career in being a spokesperson. There's that.
Oh, you're so funny. Well, thank you. Like I said, started off just a scared little freshman in my dorm room, but we have a program called Young Women for America, and the entire program is just focused on equipping young high school, college, and young adult females who want to go out and maybe have a passion for policy or just defending truth in general. And so the whole program is focused on equipping young women for that call that the Lord's leading them to. And so I'm very grateful for the way it has equipped me to do things like this.
Well, it's awesome. And you work with Concerned Women for America. Is there a website you want to direct people to so they can go find out more about it?
Yeah. Absolutely. It's concernedwomen.org. We have we have different state chapters, but also ambassador programs and influencer programs for anyone who wants to get involved. And we're a Christian nonprofit, so we just want to help equip women to go out and defend truth in the public sphere.
Oh, it's outstanding. Well, listen, on behalf of my wife, my daughter, my granddaughter, thank you very much. Stay in the fight, and we're going to have you back on again, all right?
Oh, well, I look forward to it. Thank you so much, and have a blessed rest of your day.
Thanks, Macy Petty. We appreciate you. Yeah, that was great. I mean, man, does she not have her firsthand knowledge and legislative knowledge together on this issue? I mean, she's actually there last night to watch the vote. She was actually there when Trump signed the executive order. She was actually on the court with a dude playing against her in trying out for collegiate volleyball. And then she was a 4-year collegiate athlete herself. All right, we will keep tabs on her because I think she's going to be doing some stuff. In the meantime, we're going to take a break. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Making common sense like a superpower. All right, listen, that was an amazing segment. In fact, Paul from Athens just texted in. He says, Phil, great segment. What if state schools, he asked, boycott sports schedules with schools across state lines if they have trans athletes? That's going to happen. That's already been happening. It already has. If you look at it, San Jose State, this has been a major flashpoint. San Jose State out in California has a dude on the girls' team. And thereafter, multiple girls volleyball team, female volleyball teams, collegiate athletes, the teams boycotted and said they would not play. And it became quite the thing. They were literally defaulting and taking the loss simply because they weren't going to subject their female athletes to that, and they also weren't going to condone that. It's two parts. One is protecting the girls from somebody who's on the court that should not have the physical advantages that they have. They shouldn't even be there. But the second thing is, if you go ahead and go forward with the game, then it's as if you're condoning the behavior. You're saying, we can do this, we'll play that. No, you don't play that. So yes, I think you're going to see more of that. There were, I think, JP, you can help me here, but I think there were 3 or 4 different colleges that all boycotted and forfeited their games against San Jose State. But then, here's the thing, though, by the way. The San Jose State coach and the captain of the team on their own team filed suit on the issue because they didn't want the person on their team, and they were being told they had to have the person on their team. How's that? How many schools was it?
5.
5.
Mm-hmm.
5 separate colleges says no.
Yes.
Wow.
It says Wyoming and Nevada did not qualify for the tournament, I believe, because they canceled their game with them.
They lost out on a tournament opportunity.
This is what this article from AP News says. So,
you know what? And that's so jacked up because every one of those girls, Macy Petty was on a minute ago. She was a volleyball player. It's a rigorous sport. They spend years getting ready for the day. They're playing at the NCAA level, and they lose out on an opportunity for a tournament because there's a dude playing on a girls' team.
And San Jose State seeded second in their tournament because of. So they got 6 total forfeit wins. I think 5 of those were within their conference. So 6 total forfeit wins against San Jose State that season.
Am I correct saying it was the San Jose coach herself that filed suit?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Look at San Jose volleyball coach lawsuit and see what comes up when you do that. While he's looking for that, I will tell you this. We're going to have a session here in a minute with Jeff Poore calling in. There's a change in the subject here. Next on the Triple Dipper, I'm skipping forward to Meet the Press. There has been a shift in the dynamic of the media world. It has been something else to watch as the media is on its heels. And, by the way, the new media is different than the old media. And we'll talk to Jeff about that. What you got?
Yeah, so the plaintiffs in this lawsuit were a co-captain for the team, the head coach, and then 10 other current and former Mountain West volleyball players all filed suit.
The co-captain of the team and the coach?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Sued their own school to be allowed to get one of their people off the team, and the school wouldn't let them do it.
Yeah, well, and even if the school is, for it or whatever, I mean, these are the players that got to share a locker room with them.
That's right.
And the coach has got to sit back and let it happen, see the guy go into the locker room every day and know she can't do anything.
Unreal.
It's unbelievably messed up.
Unreal. Unstinking believable.
Well, hey, at least the NCAA did something about it, right? Not.
Yeah. Sort of, kind of.
A for show policy.
A little whitewashing of the issue there. All right, coming up next, like I said, we're switching gears. We're going to Meet the Press. Going to talk about the shift that has happened in the world of media in the last 10 years especially. The onset of, Instagram influencers and podcasters and non-traditional media outlets. Like right here in Alabama, you got Rightside Media and 1819 News. And then it's happening on a national level when you got groups like Daily Wire that now have press passes to the White House. I mean, it's a whole new day. You've even got them being kicked out of the Pentagon for taking up desk space and not sharing the room with some of the new guys. We'll talk about all of it with Jeff Poore calling in. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back.
You're listening live to Rightside Radio with Phil Williams. It's hard to go wrong when you're on the right side. Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right.
Alabama and Tennessee syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live in the Rightside studios. Man, we got the local, the state, the national, sometimes the international, and oh yeah, like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, as if we didn't need more news, we're going to talk about the news as the news right now. So there's been a major shift in what I would call the media landscape. And it's not like I have years of experience with this, but even me as a new guy in the media world can see it. If you look at it right now, you can see that the White House Correspondents Association is no longer allowed to pick who gets to ask questions in the press pool. You got non-traditional outlets and content creators in online media that are being given entree to the White House, to the Pentagon, to others. You've got any number of people that are more influential than CNN and more influential than NBC and they're all in non-traditional means. Well, one guy who's been around media forever is somebody you hear on this show all the time, but you may not recognize all of his background. So Jeff Poor, who is currently the senior or the editor-in-chief of 1819 News, he also has his own radio show down on FM Talk 106.5 in Mobile. But Jeff started off working with Tucker Carlson at Daily Caller back in the day. He worked with Steve Bannon. He's still to this day part-time editorial staff at Breitbart. He does a column for Lanyap, and there's 1819. All that to say, he's been around. I thought I'd get his perspective on what we're seeing. Jeff Poor, how you doing, man?
Doing well. Thanks for having me on.
Well, by the way, Fat Tuesday. You've been down there in the thick of things in Mobile.
Yeah, so the last couple of years, or I guess now 3 years, I will go down to the Fat Tuesday sort of afternoon slate of parades, the 10 to 12:30 parades. Not too wild, a little more wild than what goes on in Fairhope where I live on the Mardi Gras docket. But yeah, we get the Comic Cowboys and KOR, and it's a good. We are inundated with Mardi Gras throws at our house right now.
Yeah, having spent 8 to 10 years, I believe it was in Mobile, people don't realize in North Alabama that downtown Mobile shuts down during Mardi Gras.
Well, the whole city shuts down. I mean,
Yeah.
I was a student at South Alabama. I mean,
Yeah.
we got out of school. Didn't work. They would close the banks if they could get away with it. But yeah, it's just like its own little regional holiday.
Well, nonetheless, you still work. And so let me ask you this. As we're watching, it's as if the mainstream media is trying to figure out how to play catch up on what has happened with the shift. I mean, when you've got somebody like Joe Rogan, who had more influence on the national landscape for the election season than even Fox News did, give me your thoughts.
Well, I've always thought, and I think before November 11th, I really believe the media's impact was exaggerated. That, especially in the eyes of politicians on Capitol Hill, or anywhere else for that matter, and high finance and, all these different sectors of high tech and things like that, that they were really scared of the media. And I thought the media kind of led the charge. They made us believe, Senator, that the country was way more to the left than it really was, than what reality is.
Yeah.
It was trying to create this perception. And so you saw this, right? You saw like national brands, leaning into the woke, leaning into the Black Lives Matter, trying to, make a social impression. You saw it with tech. We saw it with the way they handle a lot of, language and things like that. And with the media, they created that. And then November 5th, 2024 sort of said, well, no, that's not where the country is at all.
Yeah.
I mean, and this was the media's best shot. Hitler, Trump equal Hitler, you know, and then all these conspiracy theories. And, you know, remember Madison Square Garden, they were trying to recreate a Nazi rally or some nonsense. And you thought, well, you know, that asymmetrical coverage, it's over. You know, Trump is done. And he wins the popular vote. It's only been done twice, since Reagan, or since George Bush the first. And he disproved all that.
Yeah, he absolutely did. I mean,
so here's what you need to know, Senator. It is not cheap to run one of these mainstream media outlets. These are highly educated people. They make big 6-figure salaries. They live in the most posh neighborhoods of D.C. and New York. It is very, very expensive to run the Washington Post. It is very expensive to run CBS News. I mean, these things are gold plate Cadillac plans. And these holding companies, the way they've always approached it was, well, look, we may lose money. This may be like a very, very expensive endeavor, but we get the satisfaction of having like a sway in the national conversation. We move bills on Capitol Hill. We impact elections. And guess what? When November 5th happened, it was like, no, you don't. You don't have any sway. You're not influential. Well, and that was like the big wake-up call, right? Yeah. The big wake-up call. Probably in the days leading up to it, when it looked like Trump was going to beat Kamala Harris, that's when you saw a little bit of backing off from Jeff Bezos and others. But I think now everybody's kind of waking up to this, and you're starting to see these big holding companies that own these big media properties look at these news gathering operations, and they're like, why are we paying for this?
Absolutely. And I look at it and I think, you know, first of all, so 1819 and Rightside, we both started around the same time, and we can pivot to things easier. We're more flexible, and we're not bound to having to go into all the print medium and do the things and have to maintain the super high dollar, you know, studios, and there's a place for that still, but there's been a complete sea change. I mean, even right now, the White House Press Association is trying to figure out what just happened, because they no longer have the absolute sway over the White House anymore. They've been told there's a new sheriff in town, and the content creators are given just as much entree, if you will. You were there back in the beginning with Daily Caller. I mean, Daily Caller was one of the early forays into internet-based news sourcing. What was it like back in the early days?
Well, back in the early days, I mean, you know, I assume most of your audience probably watched Tucker Carlson with his old Fox News.
Sure.
And he did the monologues, and that was like kind of must-watch TV. That was our editorial meeting, except with a little more profanity. You could get away with that in an editorial meeting. But yeah, you saw what Tucker Carlson was. I mean, I go back before that, Senator. It was like the Drudge Report before Matt Drudge went crazy. That was where, you know, you got your bang for your buck. You'd get something on the Drudge Report, and that moved the needle. That got the news narrative sort of rolling in a certain direction. Back when he was still conservative, kind of dining out the Monica Lewinsky stardom. But when Tucker started that site, he had just been fired by MSNBC, and because he went from CNN Crossfire. Remember the Jon Stewart episode, and Jon Stewart kind of ended that show, and then Tucker winds up with like a mid-afternoon show on MSNBC, and it lasted a few years. He got fired, and then that's when he launched the Daily Caller. But there were a lot of startups around that era. I mean, there was. That's when Breitbart really first started taking off. You had the Free Beacon. You had some that are no longer with us. That like the Weekly Standard and things like that.
Bill Kristol fading away into Never Trump land.
Well, and like when I was in D.C., like you would go to like these conservative movement sort of gatherings, right? And we were all one big happy family. I mean, Bill Kristol was, you know, there drinking a beer with us, and we were, you know, I mean, that was before MAGA. That was pre-Donald Trump. You know, like Charles Krauthammer, you'd see guys like that, or just around at these gatherings. And Trump, in some ways, when he came along, I mean, there was a big schism in the conservative side of the media equation, and it's still to this day there's still people like Quinn Hillier and they just have not gotten over that.
No, they haven't. Well, listen, with about 2 or 3 minutes left here, so where do you see it going? I mean, is print media going by the wayside? And I think radio has still got huge room left to move, but even radio is starting to run parallel to podcasting. What are your thoughts on what's the next big foray into media?
I mean, they're going to get rid of the big salaries, like Joy Reid earning $3 million a year, right? Like, I mean, $3 million.
I'll do it for half that. How about that?
Like the show she's got replacing her is going to have 3 people on it, making probably a quarter of that. I mean, it's just you're going to see a lot of cost-cutting measures. You're going to see these big-name personalities kind of go by the wayside. There's no return on investment there. And I think print media, you'll always have the big newspapers. I mean, they'll just print a copy. It's like a legacy vanity thing, but it'll always be there. It won't be as important as it is. What the online media do. I think the days of corporate radio are in trouble here. And I don't know if you're on any corporate stations, but some of these radio clusters, I mean, the big radio companies came in and they bought all these properties up and they thought that they could do it, kind of use synergy and like one source ad sales. And that's turned out not to be a good idea. I think you're going to see it go back to the way it used to be, more independent mom and pop type operations.
Would not be a bit surprised. I think a good day, too. You guys, 1819 News started, and you've got press access, and that was even a thing at first, wasn't it, in the State House here in Alabama, just to get press pool access, didn't you?
Well, no, it's easy to get press pool access and the press gallery, but there's no point in it. They don't do anything. They don't have sources. The media in this state, for the most part, in that press pool, is left of center.
Oh my God!
They don't talk to Republicans, and Republicans don't talk to them because they don't trust them. So there's not like really any news gathering because the Democrats are not in the know. They don't know anything, and it's kind of a weird upside down place, and that's why like the 1819 Yellowhammer, places like that sort of thrive right now.
Well, more to come, I think, and I think that what we're seeing with the White House's direction, of course, Trump even owns his own Trump Media and Truth Social, so he was going to lean towards non-traditional anyway at some point. But anyway, plenty of room in the world to come, media shifting, but Jeff Poor's been there since the beginning. Jeff, thanks for your comments, man. We appreciate your time.
Hey, thank you for having me on.
All right, see you, buddy. All right, you'll hear him probably tomorrow, too, on the Grand Council right here with him and Dale Jackson calling in on Wednesdays. We do that every Wednesday. But in the meantime, we're taking a break right now. I'll come back and give you some more thoughts on this when we get back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Pulling pins on truth grenades. Yeah, so I'm not kidding about this change of the landscape for media. And I'm going to come back to that in a minute. But speaking of things you might want to know about, we got a giveaway going on right now. So you may remember that Kirk Cameron, the actor, was on the show, 3 weeks ago? He's going to be on again this Friday, is the expectation. We're planning for him to be in studio this coming Friday because he is making the rounds. He's setting up these events all over. He's going and doing book readings to kids at schools, but then he's doing an event at night in each town that he's in. And it's a faith and family tour. And it's really high quality. It's an amazing event. And he's doing one right here in Gadsden, Alabama, where we have our studio. And so we're giving away tickets, plus merchandise from Rightside, plus merchandise from Kirk Cameron, plus autographed books. All said and done, we got the giveaway. Remind me how we're doing this. It's through social media, right?
Yeah, so we're doing it on Rightside Media's Twitter and your personal Facebook. Just look up Phil Williams on Facebook, and he should be one of the top ones. But all the directions are there on the Twitter and the Facebook if you guys want to go there and check it out. We're picking a winner each day on our Twitter up into the event. Free tickets, but also there's a signed Kirk Cameron book included in it and a merch item of your choice at the event that you can choose from. So yeah, y'all go check out the social media. But we're also doing, if you have bought a ticket or are going to buy a ticket, text in a screenshot of your receipt to the text line, and we will randomly pick one winner from that to win a Rightside Media merch bundle. So you can pick that up at the event as well.
Yeah, we're talking about the Rightside merch bundle is actually got like $50 or more in value. It's a hat, T-shirt, and a coffee mug.
I believe that was,
yeah,
yes.
That's good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And we're about to add more stuff to that Rightside store pretty soon.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. I happen to know because we had a meeting the other day about picking out more merch.
But yeah, y'all could, I mean, who's going to turn down free tickets? See Kirk Cameron in Gaston?
Free stuff.
Yeah, who's turning down free stuff?
Free stuff.
So yeah, go to our social media, check it out.
Absolutely. Good stuff, man. Thank you for doing that. You and Butter set that up. Good job. So yeah, back on this discussion about media, let me talk about that for a few more minutes. I can't convey enough how seismic this is. The world of media has always been influential, and it will remain that way. But in the day, it was, the New York Times with all the news fit to print, and the Gray Lady from New York City, and you can think back on, major stories like there's even discussion about whether or not the Spanish-American War was William Randolph Hearst saying, "You raise an army, I'll give you a war," and he provoked it with media. I don't know. It's kind of an urban legend, but it's pretty much given to be true. All these things happen because the media has a voice in topics, and you want to believe that the media is always going to be objective and unbiased and all that, but it's not always that way. That's why I would encourage you guys to know who your sources are and to pick the ones you trust, and then occasionally go and read the ones you don't like just to know what the other side is saying, because it is rare today to find that there is completely unbiased media. That being said, there are dominant media outlets, and we all know it. I mean, you can look at it, the CNNs, the Foxes, even to some degree the MSNBCs, they have their place and they have their own audience, but they have clout because of their size. But what has happened in recent years is that the press pool has expanded. And in this administration now, it has rocked the world of especially the White House press pool. I mean, even in the Pentagon, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, he issued an order that some of the major media outlets that have had offices in the Pentagon for years had to vacate their offices and give them to groups like Breitbart and other organizations that have never had entree into the Pentagon with a permanent duty station there. That's seismic in the world of media. And then you got this one, like I got a piece from Fox. The White House Correspondents Association will no longer be responsible for determining which outlets get privileged access to the briefing room. Think about this. The big dogs in media used to decide whether the little dogs had any opportunity to be in the room. What does that tell you? They're screening. All that to say, all that changed. It all changed just in the last couple of weeks, as the White House Correspondents Association is told they will no longer be able to tell who comes into the room. The Trump administration will. And some are saying that means they're picking and choosing. No, they're expanding. You've got content creators like crazy that are now, we had 7,000 new media press pass applications. It's a whole new day. Phil Williams, Right Side Radio. More of this when we get back. Y'all stay tuned. Hey, all you right side ruffians out there, you are listening to Right Side Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Just covering down on some major ground across the southeast U.S. of A. Y'all, I'm talking about this show. Goes from Huntsville back on over to Chattanooga. I'm talking about from Tuscaloosa back on over to Gadsden. I mean all the way down to that prettiest little town on the plains called Auburn and heading over to Fort Benning, Georgia. And yes, there are big old patches of North Georgia and Mississippi all thrown in just for good measure. So, by the way, I got to tell you guys, in case you're not tracking, I mentioned merchandise earlier. I want to encourage you to check out the new merch store. So, RightSideMedia.org. Rightside Radio is one production of Rightside Media. Rightside Media has multiple podcasts, and we have all kinds of stuff going on. We have the written stuff that goes out to news outlets all over the region every week. And you can go to our website, RightSideMedia.org, which a bunch of you already do, because it's we can tell because we can see the click rates. But we have a new merchandise store on there. And listen, we got the hats, we got the coffee mugs, we got the T-shirts, and then we got one of my favorites. In fact, I would encourage you to go check it out. We got the Bulletproof Influence glasses. So this is literally, it's a highball glass with the Rightside Media logo engraved in it and the words Bulletproof Influence. And there's a 308 round bullet embedded in the glass. And it says Bulletproof Influence. I mean, how cool is that? So go check out the merch store. All the stuff's on there, and we're adding more merch here very soon. So stand by for that. But it's amazing how many of y'all have already ordered. I think we may be almost halfway through the bullet glasses.
Just about.
It's just more stock.
They're pretty awesome.
More stock. Pretty awesome problem to have.
Yeah.
I had to just because I'm fine with being a head chef and bottle washer. I went this weekend and got new shelves for the stock room, because we were having to store stuff. Good problem to have. Yeah, check out the merch store, RightSideMedia.org. That's the website. It's on there. All the stuff. And I guess, you know what, as long as I'm doing shameless plugs, one last thing is the newsletter. So we have thousands of y'all that now get the daily Rightside Report newsletter. It goes out every single day. Thank you to Butters, who puts together that every day for us. But the Rightside Report newsletter, if you want it, if you want to see all the things, if you want to know in advance what's going to be on the show, if you want to know when the podcasts are, if you want to see the new merchandise, if you want stuff in advance, there's no cost, there's no paywall, there's no nothing. It just comes to your email. This number we use every day on the show, 833-687-4448. That's 833-68-RIGHT. Just text the word newsletter, and you will get an automatic response back that says, here's how you sign up. And then we'll get you right on in there. So yeah, you want to be on the Rightside Report newsletter? Just text the word newsletter by itself, nothing else, to 833-687-4448. Yeah, it's amazing how quickly that thing grew. Just like crazy. I was actually on the phone with some folks this morning talking about, things related to our numbers, and they're like, oh my gosh, that's cool. So anyway, yay. Joe from Melkmont texted in. He says, I'd like to see Trump, this is his speech tonight, I'd like to see Trump read the names off of the Epstein client list.
That'd be an epic, grand
oh my gosh. There's more to the text, though. He says, read the names of the Epstein client list tonight at his speech and immediately have FBI agents come in and arrest members of Congress that are on the list while he's reading it. Holy crap.
By the way, did you see Pam Bondi on Fox said that a truckload of all the other FBI documents showed up, and the FBI chief from the Southern District of New York, which was withholding it from her, resigned. So they're apparently reviewing all of the files now.
Oh yeah, when you say a truckload too, that builds the connotation that there was a whole lot they didn't turn over.
Yeah,
a whole lot they didn't turn over.
What was it, like only 100 or so pages of the first one? It's like.
She said they now have thousands of more pages of documents and evidentiary matters they're having to go through. And I'm going to tell you right now, the world is now hungry for this because we feel like it got shafted on the last go-round. Mm-hmm. But other breaking news, Zelensky has apparently changed his tone. Nobody saw that coming, said nobody ever.
Or he was told to change his tone.
Well, that's probably a little bit of both.
Yeah.
But he has changed his tone. He has now signaled that he is absolutely ready to come back and negotiate, that he thinks that the meeting did not go the way it was intended. He wants to get back and talk a little bit. And he also said in his personal tweet was that he is ready to come and sign the agreement for the mineral rights that was discussed. Okay, cool. just a moment ago, right before we went back on the air from the last break, Vice President J.D. Vance was being interviewed in the hallway by reporters because this is the most accessible administration we've probably ever had. But J.D. Vance said, yeah, but we're still turning off the foreign aid to Ukraine right now, and he's going to have to negotiate in good faith to get it turned back on. I'm telling you, Zelensky hosed this thing, man.
Yeah.
Hosed it hard, like flogging hard. Okay, Shag Nasty the Atheist. Shag Nasty the Atheist, what do you got going on? He says Trump ain't going to read his own name. Oh, dun, dun, dun.
You know, I think if it was on the list, he wouldn't be having it be released.
Why would he make it a campaign promise if he was on the list? Please. By the way, Shag Nasty does believe that the change in the media landscape is, he calls it a propaganda purge.
Maybe it's just what the world is coming to. Why would you put people who don't even know the names of and put a content creator that gets twice even more the amount of views?
Yeah, that's exactly right. There's a reason why Kamala Harris went to Call Her Daddy, because Call Her Daddy, which was still an awful choice, by the way.
Didn't work.
You went to a young lady's sex talk for your campaign. But Call Her Daddy, I will admit, has a lot of followers, and they knew that. And they knew that it was bigger than doing a interview with, somebody on one of the networks.
And if it was a propaganda purge, I don't think Caitlin Collins would be allowed back. And she is. She comes back every week.
Shag Nasty, the Atheist, chiming in again saying, Shag Nasty, why don't you just call in?
Yeah.
Just call in. We'll find out if you're a guy or a girl because we don't know, because you won't tell us. But Shag Nasty says, is it views over truth? Look, Shag Nasty calls this a propaganda purge. Keep in mind what you just said was they're purging out the propaganda. Oh, that means that the ones who don't get it right, who are constantly espousing propaganda and what their word is misinformation, are the ones who are being asked to step aside. Which, by the way, I go to this story. Yahoo.com. The Pentagon is changing which media outlets have closest access. So, in a major shakeup for the Pentagon Correspondence Corridor, Pentagon spokesman Jonathan Ulyat announced that the Pentagon Press Association, that the New York Times, NBC, National Public Radio, NPR, and Politico would all have to vacate their office space in order to make room for the New York Post, Breitbart News, One American News Network, and the Huffington Post. Oh, by the way, Huffington Post, not known for being conservative, so don't say this is a complete, flip the script kind of group. Huffington Post and even OAN sometimes can say things that people are like, wait, what just happened? And then I go to this one. How about this one? Under Trump 2.0, content creators have entree to the White House. So Caroline Leavitt, the new press secretary for the Trump administration, says millions of Americans, particularly young people, have shifted away from traditional television and newspapers to consume news through podcasts, blogs, social media, and other independent platforms. So, she said, the seats along the wall at the front of the briefing room, traditionally reserved for White House press staff, will now be designated as the new media seats. New media seats. They invited independent journalists, podcasters, social media influencers, and content creators to apply for White House press credentials and take their seats in the room. They said they would restore also 440 press passes that had been revoked under the Biden administration. Let that sink in, Shag Nasty, that the Biden administration had revoked over 440 press passes, and it is Trump who's returning those. Oh, by the way, that leads me to my next article. Where did it go? I just had it in my hands. I just lost it. Hang on. There it is. Pulled this one off of The Hill. TheHill.com. White House is now hit with more than 7,000 new media press pass applications. So after they opened this up, the response was overwhelming. Leavitt said she envisions a more equitable briefing room during her time as press secretary. By the way, I'm pretty sure thehill.com is the one that used the word equitable. Anyway, one where she can speak to all media outlets and personalities. 7,000 new applications, the restoration of 440 previously Biden revoked applications, constant access to the media. They can just stop Trump, at any given time and talk to him, or J.D. Vance and talk to him, Rubio making the rounds on the Sunday talk shows. You got literally, and by the way, Rubio making the rounds means all the networks. He was going at it with Jake Tapper on CNN. Oh no, I'm sorry, George Stephanopoulos. So this is media reimagined. What you got?
By the way, it goes both ways. I'd much rather hear from the much more popular content creators on the left than some random person from Huffington Post or the AP. It's like, who is this person? Like, I'd rather hear from the opposition that are content creators as well than these random talking heads that are being combative. It's like, I don't even know who you are. It's like, it goes both ways. And with his, views over truth statement, the people who are getting more views because they're actually telling the truth. And the ones who aren't getting views because they're tired of the constant same talking points that are lies. So,
and here's the thing, I do think there's going to be a need for some professionalism, some ground rules. People who have been used to doing a podcast, wearing a T-shirt and no pants, may have to actually put on a suit if they want to go in the White House press room. That's to be expected. I do think too, and I know you and I talked about this on the air yesterday, that the comment or the question that was thrown out at Zelensky by one of the new media members who was in the Oval Office, who said, "Don't you own a suit?" I felt like that was designed to provoke, and it was not necessarily news. It was more like, I'm used to being a provocateur, and I'm still in that provocateur mode. Some of these folks are going to have to recognize they may have to have a different level of professionalism when they do what they do, but at the same time, they've earned the right to be there.
Yeah, I don't know how crazy I am about content creators talking to foreign leaders. I think it'd be awesome for them to be talking to the press secretary so they can actually ask, actual good questions. But yeah, I'm not so sure if I want a lot of the content creators who are used to, saying brash stuff, talking to foreign leaders like that. I don't know how crazy I am about that, but I think, hey, put them in the press secretary room. Like, they should be there just as much as the other media outlets, I would say.
And some of the biggest stories in the nation have been broken by non-traditional outlets. Even right here in Alabama, when Yellowhammer first started, Yellowhammer was the thing. It was the go-to spot. It was the one you wanted to have your name in as a conservative. And Yellowhammer is the one that broke the story about Governor Bentley having an affair, and it brought down his entire administration. And that was a non-traditional. It didn't go to AL.com, the Huntsville Times, the Mobile Press Register, the Montgomery Advertiser. None of them had the story. It went to Yellowhammer. They broke the story, and it went viral, and it literally took down an administration. But it was a well-resourced story, but it was a non-traditional outlet that found it. And I think you're going to see more of that. I mean, look at things like, I think Project Veritas is inflammatory at times, but they have broken more stories because they're willing to go places that the media won't typically go. Mm-hmm. Anyway, more on that. We got plenty of stuff, but we're going to come back and take a few text messages and wrap up the day. Y'all, it's about go home time. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Man, making common sense like a superpower. Hey, by the way, I'm sitting here looking at the screen on the right, the Fox screen here in the studio, and 22 Democrats all did the exact same scripted video and then posted it like it was their own. And it was like down to the word.
Yeah, literally identical.
And did you hear that Elon Musk said he will give a Tesla truck to anyone who can prove with evidence who it was that scripted that out for them and had them all do it?
Yeah, and which means I'm about to start doing some digging because I want a Cybertruck.
You're getting you a Cybertruck.
I need it.
Got to put the right side bumper sticker on the back of it, though.
Can you imagine that? Just put bulletproof influence on the side of the Cybertruck, right side logo.
You'd look good in it.
Yeah.
You would. It's hard to look good in a Cybertruck, but you'd pull it off. It'd be all right. Let me go. Grades are in real quick. I'll get that. John from Huntsville says, Jeff Poor and JP both get an A+ for their equally fantastic performances. Emily Jones gets an A+ for her absolutely fantastic performance, which means today's winner is obviously the magnificent Phil Williams with an A++ for his magical Taco Tuesday performance. Congratulations. And by the way, what about turkey dressing Thursday? No, I don't think we're doing turkey dressing Thursday. By the way, I think that you should have given grades, John. You should have included Macy Petty. She was an amazing interview. I thought that was great.
She was awesome.
She was good. Let me go to the phones real quick. Is that Jeff Rowe from Indiana? Jeff Rowe from Indiana. How you doing, man?
I'm doing real good as far as getting down the road. I'm almost to Bowling Green, Kentucky right now.
Wow, you are smoking the tires today. How'd you get moving so fast? They just had a load there waiting on you when you arrived?
Yeah, just everything kept going today. But the wife had to be taken to the hospital a while ago. She's got an A flutter, and her heart ran off with her. So she has to do this every now and then. But they got a shocker and converter tomorrow. So
well, she's there right now.
We'll be spending the night in the hospital tonight. Yeah, she's there.
All right. Well, you know the deal, man. And I'm praying it out loud in the name of Jesus. He is a God of healing, and we're praying that over her. So blessings on it. Y'all try to rest nonetheless. All right.
Always appreciate you and the ruffians.
Well, we're
keep us in mind.
We're glad to do it, man, and just keep us posted. All right.
Sure
well,
will.
Aside from driving down the road, wondering about your sweet bride, what do you think about all the rest of the stuff we talked about?
I think the Trump should print out some little press passes, little press buttons or whatever. And the ones who, all the Lion networks and everything, need to give them Baghdad Bob press credentials.
He was the greatest press secretary ever.
Yeah, because even Baghdad Bob told more truth than some of these ones out there now. It's really sad.
Baghdad Bob was such a cartoon, man. There are no American tanks. Everything is fine. We have it all under control. Meanwhile, things are blowing up in the background. It's awesome.
And he has to step out of the way to keep from getting run over by one. It's crazy.
Baghdad
don't believe
Bob.
your lying eyes.
I'd forgotten about him. What a chucklehead that guy was. I wonder where he is now.
I don't. That's why I was just wondering. But he's no worse than some of the ones. Like I said, they got and everything. They had a little meme cartoon the other day. It showed how bad things are twisted. It showed a snake in the water with a fish in its mouth, and saying, "Isn't it nice? This nice snake is saving this fish from drowning."
You can always rewrite the story, right? Well,
exactly.
I think the new media landscape is interesting, but I do like the Baghdad Bob. That's a great touch. I think I'm for that. I feel a meme coming on right now with Baghdad Bob trying to say why it was so necessary for all the Democrats to vote against the bill last night to protect women's sports.
Yeah, that be like the Rush Limbaugh. I need to cut out a picture of Baghdad Bob, post it on the bottom of your. And when you watch the Trump thing tonight and show the Democrats saying this man is more truthful than the people in the background.
No doubt. No doubt. All right. Well, listen, man, we're about to hit the music, but you be safe on the road. Get home to your bride, and I pray that things are well, and let us know tomorrow, okay?
I certainly will, Phil. Thanks, everybody.
All right, Bubba. See ya. Jeff Rowe from Indiana calling from the road. I love the fact that we got a over-the-road truck driver who calls in every single day. And he provides some pretty good content.
I mean, he's got all day to listen to
He
us.
does. Well, I'm proud that he does. All right, listen, I am serious when I say it. There are more of us than there are of them. God is still on his throne. Y'all stay in the fight. We'll see you tomorrow.